because this is the first one. This is the first day. So we see here God is eternal, and that fits with the fact that God created time as we know it. Another verse which helps us to understand a little bit about God is Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 3. And it talks here about God creating matter and energy. Now, this goes against, I think it's the first law of thermodynamics, which says that energy cannot be created or destroyed. But here in Hebrews chapter 11, it says, by faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which are visible. You understand what the verse is saying there? If I go to build a house, actually just like King David and King Solomon did, they went to build the temple of God. King David got all the materials together, all the matter, if you like, together. And he went to build it, but he was told that he wasn't going to build it, that his son was going to build it. Nevertheless, he had the matter, the materials to erect the house. In this instance, it's saying that God made the worlds, plural, and we touched on that last week, but he made it out of things which were not visible. And that's interesting. Some theologians and academics say he made it ex nihilo. He made it out of nothing. He spoke matter and energy into existence. Is there any other evidence to suggest that? Well, there is. Back again in Genesis chapter 1, it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Now, is the earth made of matter? Of course it is. We're standing on it. So he created matter. What about energy? Verse 16, then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. So the greater light is what? The sun. Is there any energy in the sun? There's a lot of energy, solar energy, we call it today, and we use it for our own benefit. And stars similarly, because the sun is really a great star. So we can see that God created matter and energy as well. He also created life. Again, we go back to the book of beginnings, Genesis chapter 1, and we look at verse 24. It says, then God said, let the earth bring forth the, what sort of creature? The living creature according to its kind. And we could go on and read many verses after that, and even some before it, because before that he created trees, and trees are living. And so we see that God created life as well. What else can we find out about God? Well, it says in one verse in the Bible that he knows the absolute end from the beginning. Isaiah chapter 46 and verses 9 and 10 says this, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times the things that are not yet done. That's verse 10. And so, way down here at the end of time, God knows up here at the beginning of the time that he created what's going to happen down there. We don't know that. We can surmise, we can put together permutations and combinations, we can have some sort of theory or hypothesis, but we can't be certain what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone at the end of time from ancient things. And why? Because verse 9 says, remember the former things of old, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is none like me. So God is certainly different. That's why God is supreme. That's one of the implications, I believe, of our God who is green. Our God who sustains the environment. Our God who is interested in this world, who is immanent. He's not just above and beyond it, outside of this world, has the power to do that, but he's interested in it. He is supreme. What does that mean? As a result, we honour, respect and revere him. We all have the desire to honour and to respect and to worship something or someone. And I think it makes perfect sense to honour and respect and revere the Creator God. So that's number one. Let's have a look at number two. That good has value. Let's see if we can unpack this a little bit. We know that when God created different things on different days of that creation week, that at the end of creating each individual thing on the day, he stood back, as it were, he looked at it and he evaluated what he had created. And he said that it was what? He said that it was good. And it says up there 6 times in chapter 1. And God saw that it was good. He evaluated something, and to him, in his mind, it was good. Now, we might define good in several ways. If you look up a dictionary, this would be some of the definitions of good. Good is something to be desired or approved of. Good is filling a particular purpose. Good can mean to display moral virtue. Good can mean to give pleasure, to be enjoyable. Good can mean to be thorough. And so we might ask ourselves, was Eden, the Garden of Eden, all of these things? Because each day something was created, and at the end we had that Garden of Eden. Did Eden meet all of these parameters? Was Eden something to be desired, do you think? Well, from what we hear about it, I'm sure it is. I'd like to have Eden in my backyard. I'm happy with the view at the back of my place, but I'm sure I'd rather have Eden, that's for sure. So it was certainly something to be desired. It was certainly something of which God approved. There's no doubt about that. Did it fill a particular purpose? Was there a purpose in the things that were created that week? And the answer to that is clearly yes. For a start, those things sustained life. We're going to talk more about that. Matter of fact, next Tuesday evening we're going to be talking about origin and purpose. And so we'll answer that question more fully next Tuesday. However, I think you can see for now that yes, there was a purpose in those things that were created. For instance, the sun gave light. Light's necessary for photosynthesis. So there's a purpose there in the sun. There's a purpose there in everything that was created, in all of those things. Did the Garden of Eden display any moral virtue? Was there anything good in that Garden of Eden? Once again, I'm sure there are many lessons, many principles which we see just in the first couple of chapters of the Bible, which would endorse the fact that there is good moral virtue in the things that were in Eden. What about pleasure? Any pleasure there? Any enjoyment there? Well, in such an environment, I mean, we call it paradise now and say, well, that's something we aspire to, that we would like to go to, that we'd like to live in. It's an absolute paradise. It's an Eden. Without doubt, it gave pleasure. Without doubt, it would have been enjoyable for them. And it would have been, of course, thoroughly perfect, thoroughly made. So God's evaluation of that first creation week of everything is that it was good. In his mind, it would have met perfectly the plan and the purpose that he had. I think that's why God called it good. Because it met the plan that he had, it would fulfill the purpose that he had for every created thing in that first creation week. We spoke last time about the creation of trees and the purpose of trees. And we put up on the screen, as you can see there now, just some of the purposes of the creation of trees. Now, these are from the Bible, and some people mention, for instance, to make oxygen, etc., which is very, very important, very pertinent to the time in which we live. There are many different purposes for trees. Just looking in nature, we see from reading books in the Bible, etc., that good does have value. If something has a purpose, it must have value. If anything, and everything should have a purpose, it has to have some degree of value. Get the idea there? I think that's a fair statement. What do you think? If something has purpose, it must have a value. For instance, if we think of nature, what's the purpose of nature? Well, we could say very many things. But just taking it from the aromatic fragrances and the vivid colours and the sweet sounds and the gentle touch of the breeze or whatever. There's the things which connect to our senses. we can see that it really triggers in us a connection that attracts us but inspires us to care and to think about things outside of just us. Taking a walk in nature, using our receptions and our senses, we can see that really nature can cause us to look outward and not just inward. That's just one of the purposes, I believe, of nature. There's many more, of course. I mean, we can't exist without the products of nature.